In studio with us. Well, the National Football Supporters Consultative Conference is scheduled to take place from the 27th to the 29th of July. That's in a few days from now. This at the SAFA House in NASREC. Themed United in Patriotism and Nation Building, it ultimately aims to create an enabling environment for football loyalists to play a meaningful role in the transformation and development of football. With me is NAFSA National Spokesperson, Mr. Thabo Masombuka. Good evening. Thanks very much for coming through.
My pleasure.
Please give us an idea. What is it that you hope to have achieved by the end of this conference?
Well, maybe the first question should be, what is this NAFSA? The NAFSA is the National Association, African Association of Football Supporters, established in this country across the various provinces, right? With the whole aim and purpose of positioning the role, which is what is called the critical role of football supporters in both the transformation and the policy development of football administration.
All right, now tell me, what do you hope to have achieved when you're done with the conference?
Look, the purpose of the conference, first of its kind, it's meant to do one of two things: to mobilize and galvanize football supporters behind the name, the concept, and ensure that, first and foremost, football supporters participate in the growth and development of the game by proactively contributing in ensuring that the things that happen at the stadium around safety, around hooliganism, around lack of access, and around the pricing are dealt with. So that conference is meant to discuss, amongst other things, those critical matters. One of the things that
I see you've mentioned in your media release is that you're looking at that grey area on who's accountable to who in terms of like the football clubs and so on and so forth. Here's a question that I've got for you, and it's been of like major interest to me as well as some of our viewers. The stadium attendance at matches is at an all-time low. What's going on there?
Stadium attendance at matches has always been an outcry. But the reason for that has been as a result of multidisciplinary factors. The economics and the economy being central to that, accessibility and affordability of football games. Somebody may want to argue that no, but compared to rugby matches, a soccer ticket match is relatively lower. But you also look at transportation, you look at access to matches, you look at the decentralization of the games. That has been a serious outcry and a concern. So one of the things that this structure wants to do is that football product as a whole is not a private matter, it's a public product. It needs to be treated as such, and it needs to be administered as such, so that you have all key stakeholders participating in its development, in its support, and in embracing it, so that you are able to have that nationwide support. Other nations can do it, so it means so can South Africa.
When you talk about decentralization of matches, what are you referring to?
I'll make you an example. If you look at historically, the games of Bafana Bafana, Banyana Banyana are centralized around Johannesburg, Moses Mabhida in Durban, Polokwane, in those former traditional stadiums. You need to start to take it to the hinterlands and areas of what you call. One of the recent games of Bafana went into Sisa Tugata Stadium in Mtanzane, for instance, and you saw what attendance was there. So what we're basically saying, advocating is that football matches must be decentralized, taken to the various aspects of the rural areas of our communities, so that those communities can feel part and parcel of the ownership of the brand.
Let's talk about the bread and butter of football in South Africa, the PSL.
Yeah.
Why are those matches not well attended?
Well, like I said, it's a whole lot of multidisciplinary issues. Amongst others, is the whole question of accessibility, TV rights. People would prefer to go watch the game on TV than go travel to the game. But we also insist that there's an elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is the whole issue of safety, the whole issue of drug abuse on stadium. Me and you don't know what happened to the report that involves a match invasion at Loftus Stadium, right? When Sundowns played Orlando Pirates. The near-to-death incident of a supporter of Sundowns when Pirates played Sundowns at Orlando Stadium. Now, those incidents are very unacceptable. They cannot happen under our watch. They cannot happen in our lifetime. We need to say, as multidisciplinary stakeholders of the game, we need to get rid of those. But how do we do that? Without football administrators, first and foremost, recognizing that there's a problem. And once you recognize that there's a problem, then you are able to find a multi-stakeholder way of dealing with the problem. We still don't have a report on what happened to the hooligans at Loftus. And we are now expecting family members to take their kids and their loved ones to go with them to the stadium. It's not going to happen. So those are the disinvestment of football. So what we're saying in this conference, one of the things we're going to discuss is mechanisms to rid off hooliganism. For instance, we have invited our counterparts throughout the world in Europe and Africa and America to come and share with us their experiences in terms of how they, in their own shores, manage issues related to this. Because we want to find what we call proactive mechanism to deal with issues related to what we saw in Loftus and many other issues. I mentioned the Ellis Park disaster. It's still fresh in our mind. It's
still very fresh. And
very fresh.
You know what? And you are absolutely correct, because the pitch invasions that we also had with the Bloem Celtic match as well, there has been nothing that came out of that. And you know what? I can imagine that would be one of the pillars of your conversations in this conference. And I suppose you talk about best practices that you're going to be sharing with other people.
Global best practices that we want to share. And we don't want to be misunderstood. We are not adopting a confrontational, antagonistic attitude towards football administrators. But all that we're saying is that football administration must be characterized by three things: accessibility, safety, and transformation. The commercial underlying ethos of a football administrator must translate so that those people who run into the field must own the stadia, must own the product, so that they don't have to go there and vandalize. How do they do that if this is part of their product?
You talk about transformation.
Correct.
What are you referring to, transformation in football, South Africa?
What we're saying, transformation in football relates to broad-based participation. These football supporters you see going to the stadia are only mobilized in terms of football clubs in their localities, football supporters club. The only time they participate and interact with the game of football is when they're expected to buy Lagaria merchandise, when they're expected to go buy tickets, and that's it. Or when they are sold some funeral products, which funeral products, by the way, don't cover them before or after the football matches. So we're saying that we need to take this to the next level. Football support must translate into the commercial value and proposition and value add, so that if me and you leave our families to go and attend a game, there's going to be a big derby on Saturday. People are going to travel as far as Zambia, Transkei, KZN, all the hinterlands of our country. Who assures their safety in between those travels?
So when you talk about transformation, what kind of structures are you talking about in terms of then taking advantage of whatever transformation you are able to get happening?
We're talking about transformation at the level of the economics of football. And the economics of football are basics, is to ensure that when the product is sold, this product must be owned by the multi-sectoral stakeholders who participate in its building. Football administrators will tell you that the value proposition they use to sell the product as a commercial entity is to the extent that it's able to attract thousands and thousands of supporters. But what do those supporters get in return? So you need to be able to build mechanisms and economics that says football supporters across the country, their families, their communities participate in the ownership of the value chain. It cannot be privatized to the extent that it is.
Mr. Thabo Masombuka, it sounds like you're going to have a cracker of a conference, and I sure hope that you get resolution and you get solutions to some of these challenges that we've touched on, the safety, the security, as well as accessibility to the matches, as well as the transformation itself. And I do believe that we'll be trying to find you again once the conference is done.
You're more than welcome. We'll come back and contribute and give feedback about the extent to which resolutions have been adopted to shape the future of football in this country.
No, very good. There you had it, Mr. Thabo Masombuka, the spokesperson for the the National African Footballers Supporters Association, chatting to us about their upcoming conference in a few days' time.